Must be my lucky day. All right. If that's the case, then let's do roll call. And you want to start? Rick, you want to start it off?
Rick Emil Heinz, member present.
Mike Chisholm, member, chair.
Staff liaison, Mel England present.
Pat Fitzgerald, member present.
Elizabeth Shaw, alternate present.
Logan Dunning, member present.
Tiana Duncan, member present.
Thanks, guys. So that does it. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
And then just a quick note, so because Elizabeth, you make a quorum, and I know you're an alternate, so any vote that you make is a vote. Yeah.
Finally.
Finally, the justice citizen.
You have the power now. Okay, welcome, everybody. Thank you so much. Bring the meeting to order, and we don't have any guests tonight, do we?
Not that I know of.
All right, nobody's on the guest list. Can we look at the minutes and any question, changes, alterations on last month's minutes? The silence is deafening. Would I get a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve last month's minutes.
Okay.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say nay. Okay, approved. Thank you, everybody. Okay, we're gonna review a lot tonight, and I hope have some.
Oh wait, the first one is a thank you to Cara. I don't think she's here.
She's not with us.
So this was, I didn't know she wouldn't be here, but this is technically her last meeting. So her term came to a close. She's actually, I hope I'm not butchering this. She's taking up like a volunteer chapter within, oh, I'm having someone call me right now, sorry.
Okay.
Hello, this is, yep, I see Chrissy.
She here?
That camera keeps it.
How's that for?
I know. I see my face up there
That's the
occasionally.
first one, it's right there.
So is there a term limit for committee members?
Two-year periods.
Two-year?
Issue?
Yes, isn't that what our term is? We can only do.
I think it's two,
years.
yeah, I think it's two
Yeah.
successive terms.
Two successive, 2
And
years.
then I was a weird duck because I was on KEB, so
Got it.
the attorney answers these questions.
Right.
Hi, Christine.
Hi.
Christine just joined us. Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's talk about Cara then. And acknowledge Cara. Cara.
So, yeah, Cara, this is technically her last meeting if she pops up. She already knows this, so her term ended. And she's not renewing her term because I believe she's running like a full volunteer chapter in Englewood, so it's just a lot. And it was really awesome. She was like, I feel like the Sustainability Commission has done such awesome work and is on a good traction where I feel comfortable, moving on to her volunteer thing. So thank you, Cara. She's done so much awesome stuff. So if you guys ever see her in passing, make sure you say a big thank you.
Yeah, she's done a lot, and she did the lion's share of the work on the recommended code changes for the pollinator garden plans. So, Cara, if you're out there, thank you. we can all beam in telepathy. Okay, so now you have PowerPoint. Is it next up? Take it away.
Now it's the standing space. Sorry, Mike, it's this.
Okay.
So you were gonna give me an
All right.
update on the front range
And
system.
when does that flows after that?
Oh, sorry, just so for these, I always have to attach it to something, so I
Okay.
usually put it on top, so just disregard those little
Never
points
mind.
right there.
Okay, I will give you a quick overview of the Front Range Sustainability Board meeting. I attended two, Mel attended the first one. It's interesting because that group is struggling with purpose, meaning, agenda. Why are we meeting like this? And there was actually, it wasn't heated, it was a very good debate conversation from the different communities, sustainability folks. And it comes down to a lot of what we do in this room, which is, are we a rubber stamp? Are we an advocacy group? Are we here for show and tell? Are we here to try to push something? And the debate in the group really was poignant in that there was one group that said, let's pick one thing and try to make one thing happen. And ideas were serious about composting, serious about recycling, serious about energy conservation. Could we get a consensus? Could we write a letter to the legislature? Could we speak as a group? And I would call that advocacy. And of course, I talked about biochar and I talked about recycling glass bottles like the state of Maine does. Again, concrete things. There was another opinion that was, I think, more of the school. No, we have to learn from each other. We have to share resources and we have to learn from each other and become aware of what each community is doing. It was a pretty good conversation, actually, because there's pros and cons of both of those things. One woman, I up north, Longmont, Loveland, one of those communities, she came up with the idea of using software called Pollys. Have any of you, P-O-L-L-I-S, I never heard of it. But it's an international software platform that political groups, advocacy groups use to create conversation and to identify consensus. And then, since we can't all meet all the time, this was an idea. Everybody liked that idea. And in fact, I said, could everybody on the Sustainability Commission weigh in? Because it would be like a chat line or a blog of sorts. I don't know what's going to come of it. They're going to look into it. I said I thought it would be great if I could bring it back to this group and say, hey, chime in, go to this site and express your views. There's another meeting coming up in August. I'm somewhat ambivalent about going, frankly, because I kind of feel like we keep having the same conversation, but I want to be fair to the group. Anybody from this group could go. It's interesting, to say the least. It's going to be in Boulder. Two of us could go, right? So when that's announced, we can send that date out. And if somebody wanted me to go with them, I would. But if somebody wanted to go by themselves or with somebody else, there's no harm in that. And there are ideas. There are things going on in these other communities. I think Englewood's in the middle of the continuum in terms of why are we meeting like this and let's try to get something done. I would put us in the middle of that continuum. There are some communities that are still meeting and wondering what's our role. But there's a lot of concern out there for the environment and sustainability. That's one thing I could say for sure. But any thoughts or questions? But it's a positive group. It's not negative, but everybody's time is precious. And, we have a hard time being on time for meetings here, let alone driving to a meeting in Boulder. If this group wants me to go, I will go. Like I said, I'm ambivalent about going, but it could be interesting just to hear what other communities are up to. It's very, very similar.
Are these groups like our group? In other words, they're a citizen community group that supports
They're
the city.
They're like the Sustainability Commission in each community. And many of them are brand new. Boulder's been around for a while. There's a gentleman who used to work on sustainability in Denver, and he has since moved to Evergreen, and he is a dynamo. I mean, he is definitely the school of thought of, let's get something done. I was real impressed with him because he's got some scar tissue from stuff he did with Denver, and Denver's done some pretty cool stuff. I mean, they've gotten funding for things, and they've worked with the city council. So that's the first time I ever met him. So that's what's going on. There's no harm. And I left this meeting thinking, well, we're not doing too bad in Englewood. We do have a strategic plan. We do have a section in the strategic plan on sustainability. Some of these other communities haven't gotten that far yet.
We do have the region's best sustainability coordinator.
Oh,
That's
stop
right, absolutely.
it.
Well, to Englewood's credit.
I think I have
they-
the best commission.
They made
so.
that happen. It's been huge. So anyways, stay tuned. That's about all I have to offer on that. There's a lot of concern. We're all concerned about the environment, sustainability.
Was there discussion, I imagine there was, of sharing replicable policies that the other communities have passed, as opposed to, say, general concepts, like we all know it'd be good to do more composting, but North Glen might not know that we've passed a pollinator code change, and we might not know that they've passed
Right.
electric preferred code amendments or whatever. I don't stalk their city council agendas.
That has not happened yet, Christine, and that's an example of the other argument of, and when I say show and tell, I don't mean that in a derogatory thing, it's sharing, whatever. That would be an example of something that could happen, that a community could say, hey, can we borrow that, or is that a template we could use? And that's good too. I don't know that anybody's done as much as we've done with pollinator gardens. I'll go to the next meeting and find out, but that's an example of information sharing that might save some legwork for some other. Boulder has an interesting situation where their sustainability group actually can influence the agenda of the city council.
That's what I'm curious about. I assume there's a continuum of the super progressive cities and they are able to have like a real strong say in the government. And then there are cities who I'm sure, well, I guess they exist, but it sounds like we fall in that middle where we do have a say, but we kind of have to leverage code enforcement to work its way through city council. Like, is there any best practices to how you get to being like Boulder without being Boulder?
I could say Boulder is very open to assisting any community that would want to duplicate or imitate some of their approaches.
Yeah.
I'd say Boulder is very generous, and I think it was Boulder who instituted this concept from the beginning of let's get some of these sustainability people together. So it's all possible.
Right.
I mean, one thing we struggle with, Patrick, is how often do we meet? Once a quarter? And now this platform idea is cool. It'd be neat if we could have virtual communications with somebody in Boulder or Loveland saying, oh, we already did that in Englewood, I could send you a copy. And then you don't even need a meeting if you had that. So they're looking into that software. And I think everybody in the room was optimistic or hopeful that something like that could come up. And then when I said, well, could members of our group, well, we have to talk to the attorneys, is that a meeting, and I don't know the answer to that, but every community has that same question of, we don't want to get crosswise with.
Mel, do they have other people like you in other areas in the city? Are there people who are on staff who are focused on that?
Yeah, it depends on the city, but a lot of the Front Ranges are going to get them, and it's really exciting. We're probably going to see way more because the state is doing grant funding right now for capacity for sustainability work specifically. So they're going to fund 4 to 7 projects. They're really looking for like this regional approach. So you know how Englewood and Sheridan share me, they really want to see more like counties or more
They
regions.
can't have you, by the way.
They can't have me, but they can have someone else. But so that's going to be funded this year.
They're funding staff.
Staff, it has to be staff. It can't be program, can't be anything else. To get more boots on the ground to do sustainability work, which is super cool. Englewood is looking into that grant to add more people, by the way. But there's people all along the Front Range, it's only growing bigger. We have a group that meets quarterly of all the sustainability people in the public sector. And each time we meet, there's like new faces, which is really cool to see.
That's great.
Some places don't though. So some places are.
Yeah, it sounds like that would be a natural sort of conduit between areas to have people on staff that actually can make that communication.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
And in many ways, we don't want volunteers to get in the way of staff either. You do it, it's your profession, you study it, you live it. An advisory group isn't necessarily the group to lead the charge. So, I mean, I support you and your peers, which is part of me. When I read some of the strategic plan and stuff, I think, that's great. Go, keep doing it, just do more. You know, I don't need to comment on every detail. I trust you guys have integrity, you're doing the right thing. And so that's another confusing thing about where does an advisory committee fit in? And certainly to support, let's say, through spirit and through consensus that we think you're on the right track. I see value to that, but I don't think we want to get in the weeds. And I think that, again, city by city, they're going through this evolution of, do we need to approve that, or has that already been approved? You know, that kind of thing. So I think that's natural.
If we don't want to get,
Logan's hand is up.
So we're ready to roll on?
Oh, no, I was just saying, I just wanted to acknowledge that Logan's hand was up. I just didn't know.
Oh,
if he had
okay.
something to say.
Logan, were you going to say something?
Yeah, hey, thanks,
Sorry.
guys. One, Mike, thanks for attending these meetings. I always like hearing your feedback. One, I like the idea of a sort of shared communication platform. I don't know if that's what Pollys is, but do you know if Pollys can act as a sort of resource or data like repository for all of these different groups? You know, I like the idea of,
I
you
wanna
know, we
say
just did a
yes.
tree ordinance. Could we put that information there for other groups, for example?
I want to say yes, Logan, because one of the ideas was if they could get it up and running, they could do a survey to the communities, and
Yeah.
then they could collect the data, and all that would take place on that platform. So I'm of
That's
the
great.
impression that
Do you
it,
know, Mike or Mel, whomever, are these just attended by city, you know, commissioners for sustainability, whatever, you know, I'm sure their names are different, but, or are there representatives from other groups? You know, I'm aware of, you know, the Citizens for a Sustainable Inglewood group, for example. Like, are there other reps, or are they just commission boards and commission members?
From my knowledge, they're just boards and commissions.
Cool. Okay. Thanks.
so stay tuned, I guess, is all I can tell you at this point.
And you'll circulate the date for the next one?
That was, that was another point that was brought up at the meeting. What do we call ourselves, and should we call ourselves anything? I mean, it's kind of getting the cart before the horse, So right now, it's just that group of sustainability folks. I guess,
is it basically the metro area? Front Range?
It could be Front Range, but
I think we're the most south,
yes,
right?
yes, we are.
Okay.
Yeah. So, an example, what is it in groups? You form, you storm, and you norm. And I would say forming and storming is where this group is right now, just trying to get their feet underneath them. And things like, how often do we meet? Do we have a name? Are we officially connected to our respective communities? Or is this a blessing of sharing and we just all are in kindred spirits? That hasn't been answered. And obviously we don't want to get crosswise with just the various cities that put us in our positions in the first place. So it's a tall order, but there's a lot of energy behind it, I'll say that. Any other thoughts or questions? Okay, we'll move on.
Mike, it's you next too, for the
Aren't you guys
exciting
lucky?
update.
City Council, I think, was very positive. They approved the code change. They had two concerns that I remember, if you
So
remember.
they approved the code change going to ordinance for them to vote on.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
I don't want it to seem like it's
I
already
thought that was
passed.
an approval, but it's moving along.
Mm-hmm.
And the two questions that I think are valid questions, in the wording of the code change, there was a sentence that said something like, encourage low water landscaping and, what was it not, and reduce, was it reduce or eliminate?
It said limit or restrict.
Restrict.
Yeah.
It said restrict lawns. And I hadn't even, that word jumped out when they pointed it, because yeah, it could lead you to believe we're gonna take your lawn away from you. And I said that was not our intent. If that wordsmithing had to occur, I don't think anybody would. The idea was to augment what was already in place and to encourage people to do Coloradoscaping. So that was just a sort of a back and forth that I think we clarified that was not our intent to take away people's Kentucky bluegrass. We'd like them to, but we're not going to enforce it. And then the other thing came up with the alleys. Chelsea asked this question, and she said, does this apply to the alleys? And I said, I guess it does, because we hadn't really talked that through. I said, I would suggest that we were thinking of the front yard or the presentation of the property. We wouldn't want to, I said, maintaining the alleys and keeping weeds under control makes sense. We don't know of a lot of people who want to put pollinator gardens in their alleys. We think that's great, but it was not a burning issue in our conversation. So I kind of left that up to the folks.
And on the other hand, not many people want to put turf grass in the alley.
Yeah. And there might be, I don't know. They were very good questions. I was very pleased with their open-mindedness and willingness to entertain it. So I thought it was approved, but it was approved for the next step, is what you're saying, okay? Did I miss
So
anything?
the city attorneys, well, one thing you missed that you did a phenomenal job.
Oh,
I thought the commission did a great job of like vocalizing what they wanted, being very specific. Mike did a great job delivering it. But yeah, for the next steps, so city council gave the general consensus of moving forward. So our city attorney is gonna draft up an ordinance considering all the stuff that they talked about, alleys and everything. They're the professional wordsmithers there. It'll go in front of them and it takes 2 approvals. So I believe it takes the first motion, that passes, then it's a second, and then it's good to go. But I think everyone across the board was like, yeah, this makes sense, which was pretty nice.
Wow, that's
It's very rare that you get that.
I was gonna say, that's damn rare.
It's very rare.
Well, don't speak too soon. But
Yeah.
we
Suck that back in, never mind.
Can I ask, where was the objection regarding the watering? Was it a large, was it, I'll say it this way, is it more than one person?
With the watering?
With regard to the low water landscaping and the verbiage with that. Do you remember if it-
Steve
was it
brought it up.
Steve?
Yeah.
Okay,
And
interesting.
he was very
Okay,
thoughtful and respectful, and I said, gee, Steve, I hadn't thought about that.
okay,
Yeah,
okay,
and his concern was that we were going to restrict
sure,
people's front yard grass. And
which
And
makes
then a
sense in
couple other
district,
which
which makes sense in district.
yeah, I get it.
All right, got it.
So,
I would say both member Anderson and member Ward both were not amped
Yes,
on the
Anderson.
restrict. Yeah.
Which makes sense as that's
Yeah.
3 and 4.
so,
Okay.
I think we moved the dial a notch at a time, and then collectively, some of these things. And then, I think the tree protection ordinance is another example of slowly but surely it seems to be moving. So I'm real happy with that. Any other thoughts or questions on this? We can pat ourselves on the back. And again, Cara and Dana put a lot of work into it too. So everybody needs to say thank you if you get a chance. All right, where are we, Mel? we
All right, I'm
back
glad
up?
I didn't lose my voice because I'm about to talk for a long time. But all really fun stuff, I think. So when Mike and I were talking about what this meeting should be, I pitched to him of maybe it could be a sustainability program mid-year review. I think a lot of times we do reviews at the end of the year, but then you don't have time to like flag stuff that you want to see changed or make note of things. So that's what today's gonna be like. It can go as fast or slow as you all want. But yeah, cut me off at any point to ask questions. I thought I would start with, oh, yes.
Our grants on the agenda have that. You have grants down here.
Yep, so grants are first for the review of the year because I'm the most excited about this. So if you want to know what I've been doing for 6 months, this is it. So the sustainability division, i.e. me, has applied to over $1 million for only in June, which is pretty great. And we already have other grants that we want to apply to too. A lot of people ask like, what are cities doing to apply for the Inflation Reduction Act? A lot of these funds come from that. The other funds that we're applying for come from that. They just have like fun names. So the first one was the lawn replacement program for $10,000 that we won. You all probably know the lawn replacement program in and out at this point, hopefully. The next one I'm really excited about, $750,000 for public building electrification for City of Englewood buildings. At the time of putting this together, I said submitted. We found out on Friday that we won it.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so that is which is awesome. So
That's great.
we won the $11,000 for the planning. They dog ear the 750. They have it reserved for us on the side. We just have to finish a little bit more paperwork and then hopefully we get that full 750. The city of Sheridan, we applied for it on them too. They won it too. So South Metro is doing really good for public building electrification, which is awesome. And then the other one that I'm applying to on the 14th and 21st deal with electric vehicle charging, one for Charge Ahead Colorado to get 5 different locations in the city with chargers. If anyone has looked at an EV charger map of Englewood, we are so painfully behind compared to other places. So that'll get us very much up to speed. And then the Fleet Zero grant is to install three dual port level 2 chargers at our service center so we can really ramp up switching our fleet to EV to make people less nervous if they get EVs because we'll actually have charging for it. So yeah, that brings our total into over $1 million. We're only gonna apply for more, so that's the status on grants so far. Any questions, qualms, concerns?
Are you writing the grants?
I am.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I used to be
Because-
a director of grant writing for a nonprofit, so I'm
Wonderful,
glad I can
wonderful.
put this in on this one.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
show, okay, thank you, thank you.
I'm not looking forward to the reporting side, but you know.
The EV charging, are we talking about public spaces that these would be going into, such as, give me an example. of
Yeah,
where
so we have 2 fast charging locations, one at the Malley, one at the rec center, just because they're in areas, rec centers, typically people are there for like 2 hours or less, which is pretty good for fast charging. We have Broken T is gonna get if we get the grant, gonna get 3 level 2 charging. When people golf, they're there for a long time. It doesn't make sense to do fast charging there. We have another at Pirates Cove, level 2. Again, people are usually at a water park for a long time. And then the other one we're proposing is Centennial Park. We'll get some EV chargers. So if you're there for like a baseball game or hanging out, you'd be able to charge your car. And those are located kind of a little bit all over the city. So we're trying to get folks where they're at instead of conglomerating them all in one spot.
Is there any thought or possibility of putting one in or near city center?
That is a great question and one that I've gotten from staff a lot. So it's a no, unfortunately, which I'm bummed about because we have so many people at the city center, at the civic center. And it's because they don't know the future of the civic center. So they're like, we don't want to put infrastructure in, like say we're out of this building in a few years. Civic Center has honestly been a pain for any upgrades because no one wants to touch it.
Right.
Which understandably so, because you don't want to add in all this stuff just for it to get bulldozed. So sadly, no, but I feel like there is a good reason.
Not to go on a tangent, but they still haven't decided about moving it or not. I thought that was.
From my knowledge, no.
Okay.
We had a developer, I think it was like 2 years ago, and then they pulled out and yeah.
Police
Yeah, I
station,
thought it was
police
a
station?
Not at the police station.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's no anticipation of changing over that fleet in any way at this point?
No, and even in our EV action plan, so we have a goal of 20% of EVs will be, of the fleet will be EV by 2030, and we specify light duty non-emergency fleet. But that's still 13 vehicles out of the 66 by 2030, which I think is super doable, hopefully. But yeah, not police cars as of now.
Service center cars like parks cars, parks trucks.
Yeah, like we have like community development has, which is probably not up to get swapped out, I don't think, but like they have a Prius that just like goes around town for like different meetings and different park stuff that they don't haul anything, they don't really do much, so it just makes sense to turn them to an EV, so stuff like that.
I have more questions on the grants. Oh, well, two questions. Has the city discussed getting a grant writer or a part-time grant writer or sharing a grant writer with another city so that you could do the work and not spend all your time trying to get the money to do the work?
So I don't know what the status is for like a citywide grant writer. I can follow up with my boss to see what that would look like. Because I think that has been a discussion from city council of getting that, but I just have no idea where that is. But I will say in our budget for 2025 is to have another sustainability person on my team, and they would help me with grants. So to divvy that and get more money hopefully out there. So at least for sustainability wise, that would be a grant helper.
Well, that would be a good start.
Yes.
And
yes.
I think citywide would be even better because they could better connect the dots to say, here's some grant that's meant to go to street paving, but we can use it for bike paths. And you might not even get notice of a street paving grant opportunity or whatever the hypothetical case may be. Maybe even a limited one for the next like 3 years while there's a ton of federal grant money. Wouldn't have to be in perpetuity forever, but a daunting would to miss out on the millions and millions and millions of dollars that are available for a one-time thing.
Yeah, there is so much out there right now, it's overwhelming.
Yeah, exactly.
People are like, are you applying to these grants? I'm like, yeah, and probably missing a lot too.
Yeah.
Like,
right, and the bigger they are, the more impact they could have, but the harder they'd be to apply for. Which is why like a $10,000 one sounds pretty appealing. But a multi-million-dollar one where we could get all our priorities done in certain areas would be pretty awesome. Okay, so my next question, final question. It looks like these are mostly state ones, but is there movement on applying directly for federal funding, or do they basically all go through the state?
so for I thought for the EV charging, they got some from IRA. Public building, I think, got some funneling in from federal funding. I will also say though, for like the like clean energy tax credits and direct pay for clean energy and stuff, that's what our contractor, Euro Energy, is looking for in our energy audit.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing all of that math, thankfully for me. But yeah, that's all I know so far of the federal stuff.
Right.
Anything else before I move on? Great. Okay, so now is the high level sustainability program review. Just so you know, I didn't put, just for the sake of everyone's sanity and my own, I didn't put all the projects listed in the sustainability plan. I did the ones that I can mainly speak to, like South Platte Renew has some projects in there that I didn't put in there, and some others. So if you see one in there that I didn't list up here and you're like, hey, I actually really wanted to know about that, still ask the question, I'll write it down for a follow-up, but I just don't want you to think that I like purposely left some out. It's just the stuff that I can really speak to. Another thing to flag, hopefully you all already know this because it was covered a little bit ago, but we do have a little bit of different goals. So sustainable business and green workforce is different from before. It was resilient economy, I want to say, and then climate action used to be community resilience, and I am so thrilled that it got renamed to climate action. I thought that was a huge win to just call it out, but those are the main ones that changed. And then I put bonus in there, clean and connected transportation, because that used to be one of our goal areas. It did not get removed from the strategic plan. It's just in the transportation section, but I still oversee a project in there, so we just have it in there as a little update. All right, so to kick things, let me do this full screen so people can actually see. All right, I thought we'd kick things off with sustainable business and green workforce. So I'll just do the high level of this. I won't read directly off of the slide. So as you all know, we launched the Sustainable Business Partnership in partnership with the City of Sheridan. We hired our Green Business Program coordinator, Aiden Lawton, who is awesome. He's a master's in corporate sustainability and has been doing this work for a couple of years. So he's really hitting the ground running. We already gave him a lot of work his first day. So that project is in progress / kind of complete. The other one we have on there is to provide assistance through grants and technical assistance to local businesses to meet state mandates. And we put the example in there of the single-use plastic bag and polystyrene ban, but it could really be any state stuff that comes down in the future. So we were one of 3 communities that I know of, other community being Sheridan, that actually helped businesses during the polystyrene ban with a grant for them. We were featured in the news because the newscaster told us, she's like, I don't think any other community is helping businesses during this. So I thought that was pretty interesting. We're hoping that Aiden's position not only will implement the Green Business Program, but also will really be kept abreast about future legislation to help our businesses through it, so they can not only, survive through state legislation, but actually maybe even thrive and be really innovative and creative. So we're excited about that. Any questions, comments for sustainable business or green workforce?
We could have a chance to meet.
I was going to pitch it for the next meeting. I need to check with his availability. I'm pretty sure he's free. Since he just started last week, I was like, I'm going to give you time to, learn where you are.
We need to throw it all.
You guys will love him though. He's wonderful. I was going to pitch that if you all were open to it, of having him come and just introduce himself to you all at the next meeting.
Is he, is one of the things on his scope of work to help the large buildings in Inglewood with building performance standards?
So his main role, because he's part-time, hey.
Hi.
He is part-time, so he does. Oh, no. I was worried about them.
You brought dinner for us. How nice.
We have a knife for you to cut it up there.
Somebody's been to Santiago.
But his main goal, so he's part-time, he's 20 hours, 16 hours Englewood, 4 hours Sheridan. And his main role in the beginning that we want him to really focus on is implementing the Green Business Program. If he ends up going like full-time or has more capacity, then definitely he can help in any kind of sustainable business capacity. Mm-hmm. But step 1, implement program successfully.
Does the Green Business Program include an energy component?
Mm-hmm. It does. So I know a very high level of the Colorado Green Business Network, but it includes an energy component, a waste component. Businesses can even dive into diversity and equity if they want to. They put that in there. They really make it a really awesome, comprehensive program, but energy is a huge part of it.
Any size business?
Or any size business. It could be a nonprofit. They even work with people who work from home, which I thought was really interesting. They like encapsulate everything in this program. So I was like, wow, Aiden, you're gonna really have your plate full.
Right.
How many hours is he?
He's 20 hours to 16 hours Englewood and 4 hours Sheridan because he's cost shared between them.
I would like to just try to understand his approach. Like, my thought, where would you start?
I think he's learning that this next week.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's daunting.
So the good thing is, it's not too daunting because the state already has this program. They've ran it for years. And they have all the templates and everything, and they really are a huge support.
Okay.
They do the training with him, they go on site visits with him. He's not just left out into the woods by himself, I promise.
Interesting.
Anything else for sustainable business and green workforce? Great. So next is waste and recycling. One of the things that we already implemented and are still assessing is the transition to the hazardous waste at your door program, which also includes electronic equipment pickup. This is the first year doing it. In the years past, the cities of Englewood and Littleton did an event twice a year, which the Sustainability Commission would help volunteer at. There were a lot of things, it was a great event, but there were a lot of shortcomings with it. One time a year, all of my calls were disgruntled people being like, what am I supposed to do with this like dripping oil gas in my basement? I was like, wait till September? I'm not really that sure. So this is a year-round program they can take advantage of. It's still only $20, but actually their $20 goes so much further. They can fill this like huge bag with hazardous waste. They can get rid of a computer screen, a TV monitor. It's just, they can get a lot more. And then the other thing that was really tricky with the events before is the cities were really left up to the mercy of contractors for whatever they wanted to price, because not many people do hazardous waste. And it was slowly creeping up to being very expensive. So this is a locked-in way. It's been really successful. We get feedback cards from people, voluntary ones, and they all have been like, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to get rid of this stuff. So yeah, that's implemented, been really successful. Any questions on that?
Mel, what does At Your Door charge the city for year-round service?
So we get charged $27,500 for 120 pickups, which is about the equivalent of the participation we got before. But before, we would get charged anywhere from like 35,000 plus those two events. But then also with those events, I was the one that had to go out and do the RFP and bidding. So it was a huge staff time even before the event.
Right.
So this has just been a lot better in my opinion.
Great.
Two questions. One, communication with the community on this. How is that happening, and has it happened? I mean, I'm not, the At Your Door program, is that being put out there on media? Is it?
Yeah, great question. So when it first launched, we put it in the e-newsletter. I put it in the Sustainability Quarterly newsletter. And then we're also going to do for the next magazine. It's coming out right before people are typically used to the event happening. And we're advertising it there and letting people know that the event is not going on because you have this other option that is much easier and much better.
Okay. Second question has to do with, and I hate to go back to this because I think that in the media, we've heard that some of these companies are questionable on what they're doing with this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have anything that guarantees that what we're doing with this is being responsibly recycled?
I can reach out to Waste Management. I think that's a great question. I can reach out to Waste Management and see if there's resources we can put on the page of like, this is where it goes. Because I know to sign up for the appointment, you have to go through their website. I haven't dug through it a lot, so maybe they answer that, but I'll put that on my list to make sure that that's front and center. Because I think a lot of people would wonder that.
Big question.
All right, great. So then moving on, we have something about implementing more public education and outreach around waste reduction. So we have kind of a decent bit going on around this. So is everyone familiar at this point with the waste characterization study, the regional one? Yes? Okay, perfect. So we have that going on. That'll be completed kind of mid to late next year. And that has like high community engagement with folks of hearing about what they think about waste, what they want to see more of. We had a compost lunch and learn. I mean, we had a compost event in April with Compost Colorado for the community. We're actually having a compost lunch and learn for staff this Thursday because we're launching our internal compost program. So Compost Colorado is going to come talk to them, but we're constantly looking for different ways to engage with waste reduction. And then the next one I just touched on, we're starting that this month. For the investigate composting programs and communications, so last year, I feel like I'm in a time warp. Last year, we started the rec center composting drop-off with Compost Colorado. And then we're also studying it further through that waste characterization study of what are kind of high impact programs that we can be doing, both as Englewood and as a region. Any questions on that before I move to the last one?
I just wonder, as you, say, creatively redesign the hazardous waste program so that the city contributes and then the citizen contributes to that, could that model ever be transferable to a composting strategy?
Like an at your door compost?
Well, in other words, if I want to compost today, I call them up and I pay whatever they charge me. The city doesn't chip in or do anything. And I'm just wondering, good golly, the volume, that's potential. So it would go like this. Well, Mike, it's gonna cost you $25 a month, but Englewood's gonna chip in $10 a month. Could something like that be imagined?
Got it. Like a cost share.
Yeah, and so it's like, gee, thanks Englewood, I appreciate it. Englewood's encouraging me to do it. And on the other hand, it's a pretty affordable approach. I'm just thinking, how do we get more people to do it?
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, and I think the more that do it, the cost per unit goes down, you know. Just a thought.
I think that's really interesting. I wonder
Yeah.
if other communities have done that, of doing the municipal co-pay, like an opt-in voluntary one for composting.
You can even
Denver
phase it
does
out, you know, I say the first year that the city
I thought
helps
Denver was
me out.
mandatory, or not mandatory, but like you're
Part of
paying.
the,
Mhm.
no, I know what you're saying, but.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And evidently, Compost Colorado just bought 2 big digesters, so they
Mhm.
need material. And then the other thought I had is back to green businesses. What about food scraps, all the restaurants and stuff? Could that go into a composting program? And again, could the city weigh in on that a little bit just to encourage the restaurants? Because
They kind of had their own little co-op going there for a while.
did
I'm
that,
not sure if they're still doing it, but, Grow and Gather. That's George
Grow and
Gastus,
Gather,
he was leading the charge there.
okay.
I'm not sure if that's still going on, but I know a couple years back, that was one of the things that they were.
But, I mean, food waste is something that some cities and areas are into it, and others are lag behind. But again, I can bring that up with the new rep who's working with businesses, because Englewood's getting more and more restaurants, and I had been in the restaurant business at one point, and the amount of waste is awful.
It's a lot.
It's a lot,
Yeah.
and if there was some way that could be composted, that would be cool. Can the city get green credits or like carbon credits when the city does something that is carbon negative, like the sewage plant? Does the city ever get any carbon credit return for that, or does it go to Xcel Energy and other places?
You can get renewable energy credits for like solar, but I'm not sure if they got anything for the methane digester.
Yeah, but I'm just,
I can ask
there's
either,
carbon
though.
credits are out there, and I just wondered if municipalities can get credit.
I feel
Say
like they
did
would
a
have to
huge
be,
food, say we did something that was carbon negative,
I think
could
in
the
order
city
to
get
get,
extra credit for doing that, I guess is what I'm saying.
I would
money?
think in order
Could the
to
city get money
get
for doing
carbon credits, it would have to be huge and it would have to be continual. Like how forests grow for 20 years, they have this set
Oh.
market. But for smaller things like this, I bet the only option would be have it baked into the price. Like Excel has their own
Yeah.
carbon goals they have to meet, so they
Sure.
include that into what they would pay us or something like
I
that.
think that's part of the revenue we get from the
Yeah.
wastewater from South Platte because of the
Yeah.
methane project. So we do get a rent credit.
Mhm.
So it's all baked in something.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
But this is interesting.
I had a
Glad
question.
we got more manpower, person power, people power.
I had a question on the waste for city facilities. I don't know if I've asked this before, but probably, has the city gone through and done an audit of your bins, like to make sure every single room that has a trash can has a recycle bin right next to it? Always, because I was in another city's facility last week and you see them everywhere where it's like, it's a recycle bin, but it's the only thing there and it's for trash. And it's so confusing.
So it's funny you bring that up. So 2 years ago when I started, me and the facilities manager at the time went to every single building in every single room and made sure it had a recycling bin and signage for it. We
Next
have
to the trash can.
next to the trash can.
Oh.
Yeah, that's not the only thing. Because if you only do recycling, people just throw trash in there.
Yeah.
People already throw trash in the recycling. So you're just asking for it to be even worse.
Right.
Something that we're noticing, even though we have signage, we have the bins, we're still getting so many people putting trash in recycling. So we're trying to take it a step further, and we have a green team, which is a representative from each department that meets once a month about sustainability stuff. The recycling has been the biggest topic. We actually want to go a step further and get like recycling lids for them that make it a little harder, so
Yeah.
people kind of have to stop for a second and say
Right.
like, oh, this has a slit and this probably isn't trash. I'm hoping
Right.
that works, because the stuff I find in the recycling, I'm like, no way, like that is just not recycling.
I agree, it's just mindless. You toss it, but if it had the right shape
Mhm.
and color, and there was trash right next to it, I feel like that would
Yeah.
improve.
And then we're gonna give them a composting bin and make it hopefully better. We're also gonna send out, this was a green team recommendation, which I loved. We're also gonna send out a little form for folks. If some reason their recycling bin has wandered off and they need one, they can fill it out and we'll send it to facilities and they'll get one with signage.
Are city employees responsible for resorting recyclables when that happens? Or here's where it's coming from. I was at the rec center talking to them about that one time. And I got kind of the sotto voce that said, you know what, they throw it all together because frankly, at the end of the day, there's so much trash in the recycle that it's not worth the time. Is this a city employee responsibility to do that?
So it's employee responsibility to put the right thing in the right bin. And it is true that the contractor was told if there's a lot of trash in the bin, it's not fair to them to sift through everything and put it in the trash. So if it's highly contaminated, they do throw it away. So we're trying to teach employees of like, please do not put it in there. Like if in doubt, even put it in the trash. Like don't put contaminants in the
Err one way
recycle
rather
bin.
than the other way.
Public facilities, like the rec centers. I mean, is this an issue? Because that was where the issue was happening, was having to do with city employees in the offices. It had to do with what's in the public domain, where we had people who were depositing the wrong things in there. That seemed to be a larger issue, and that's where I heard that they were pushing back and saying, you know what, it's not worth it. Yeah. And they were just taking it all and throwing it in the trash.
I could see that. I could totally see that. Hopefully with the lids where it makes people pause a little bit, that'll help. But I will say it's not an Englewood thing, it's across the country thing of
no kidding.
contamination and recycling. It has probably aged me 10 years of trying to repeat the same rules to people
Well,
over
I
and
want to say
over.
that you do not show that to me.
Stop it.
I like the kind of thing where it's all connected in one and just has either 2 slots or 3 slots. That seems like the gold standard, because then the recycling couldn't just wander off.
With information below about what is and what isn't.
Well, yeah, because that's kind of to your point, like it's the logo that has confused everybody,
Yes.
right? And nobody
Right.
caught on when this all
Right.
became was that there's a number in there and nobody's looking at the number. Everybody's like, oh, look at that cute little triangle, boom, done. And anyway,
Right.
public.
It's public, and that's a lot of trash too. You know,
Yeah.
that comes in through these rec centers.
So the lids, et cetera, is that at not just here, but the rec centers, the library?
We're pitching it, so I reached out to facilities, and I pitched it to them of like, hey, can we go around and do the same thing we did 2 years ago? And do an audit of how many we have and do everything where even the public one would have them.
Cool.
Because why not, if you're doing it for internal, to do it to public, yeah. We just need people to pause before they throw stuff in the trash.
Well,
Yeah.
Look at the parks. I mean, the parks have big 55-gallon drums. That's all they have. There is no recycling in the parks at this point.
Mel, do you want a
Right.
wild experiment in your
Sure,
city here?
sure.
I don't know if this is a good idea or not.
Actually, I shouldn't say sure in front of the mayor. I should just say sure.
Let's hear it.
Ask him.
No, it's a social experiment.
coming up
It's a
next.
social experiment. You know the pincher things that you use to get the stuff off the shelves, the high ones when you're short,
Uh-huh.
right? If you, I would be curious if you put one near some of your recycle bins and be like, threw it in the wrong trash can, no problem. Just move it, because I feel like that does happen. If people are like, drop it, the recycle in the wrong one, or vice versa, it's like, well, I'm not gonna put my hand in the trash. That's a social experiment. I'm not suggesting you do that
Pictures
all over
near
the
the
city.
trash. I'm doing it.
That's just a social experiment, doing a couple different rooms, and then like take a look at it. Huh, I wonder which.
I know Parks has those because we use them for park cleanups, so.
Yeah, and then like you could even provide the orange vest for them and be like, would
You have to put on the orange
Which
vest
vest?
before you go in the trash for safety reasons.
I'm kidding about that.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I would, I'm not saying implement that everywhere, but it'd be an interesting social experiment to see what people did with that.
I was thinking how funny it is when people either can't or don't want to just, there's three choices. And I was thinking in preschool, you have those little things with the square and the circle and the triangle, and like, they missed that day of preschool.
Well, that's why I think the lids come into play of your premature self. You're like, okay, I'm fitting the item into the slot. Because I've thought about that
After I
before.
get cookies and milk and a nap.
After you stop getting me sending emails saying, please don't throw stuff in the recycling that doesn't belong there. Okay, wrapping up on this slide. So we have project in development to prepare for the 2026 State of Colorado requirement for producer responsibility program. Are people familiar with that program? No? It's really, really cool bill that I think it's cool, it depends who you ask. Really, really cool bill that passed by the state. I think we're the third state in the country to pass. I'm looking at Christine because she's my fellow eco policy nerd. We're the third state, I believe, to pass it. And essentially what it does is it's gonna provide free residential recycling to all residents starting in 2026. And that also includes like multifamily and everything. How they pay for it is that it's plastic producers get charged a fee in the state of Colorado that helps pay for this program. So free recycling is really awesome. What that means for Englewood and all the other communities, we're not sure yet. So we put that in there just to let people know that we know it's there and that when we get more information, we'll keep working with it. So no update there, but pending. And then the last one, we had it in our old sustainability plan. It's not in this one because it was already completed. We have a paper reduction plan for internal. We passed it in Q4 of 2023, so it's just implementing this year. And it's pretty standard stuff like doing, doing meetings with folks to help them do like digitizing of documents, which a lot of people said they struggle with. Each director gets a report at the end of the year of how much paper and what it costs the city for printing, so they can just be aware and other stuff like that. All right, for energy, we've been doing a lot in the energy space. So as you all know, we are already in progress with doing the energy audit. That's supposed to be completed Q4 of this year. We're still doing the E3 program, the Energy Efficient Englewood Grant Program. We completed the energy efficiency, the low-income energy efficiency outreach strategy, which the Sustainability Commission, I just have to say, your guys' feedback on that was so awesome and really helped it just be a much better strategy. So that's completed and now in the implementation phase. Increasing solar, that's also wrapped into the energy audit. Emission-free heating for our city-owned buildings, that's also in the energy audit. The energy audit really takes care of a lot of these projects. The one thing on there is investigate ways to help renters benefit from energy efficiency upgrades and retrofits. This is something, at least from my knowledge, all municipalities struggle with a bit. It's really hard because of that landlord-tenant split of incentives for energy efficiency. We somewhat kind of address this in the low-income plan, but there is a lot of innovation and work that can be done on that. So if you all ever have ideas, I'm always open ears. open ears on that. And then the final bonus is that we're aiming for Soul Smart Silver by the end of 2024. And essentially, for those that don't know that program, that's a free program through the Department of Energy, and you basically go through this point system, and they help you kind of remove red tape or remove anything that would be cumbersome for your residents or businesses to implement solar in your community. So we're already bronze, just going for silver.
I have a question.
Yeah.
That's very good. On the develop strategies to increase solar systems serving city properties, and I could be jumping way ahead on this, but assuming all that happened, Xcel Energy would have to cooperate or support it as well. So if Englewood said, we're going to put solar panels on all these buildings, it would have to go into Xcel's grid, wouldn't it?
Unless we have batteries, right?
Are you saying that Xcel would have to approve any of our projects?
Yeah, I mean, I have an opinion of Xcel. They're being dragged kicking and scratching into the 21st century. So they do what they're made to do.
Boulder would very much echo that.
Yeah, and so when I see that, I think, well, that's great. You know, Englewood might be gung ho and be all over it, and then Xcel could put a roadblock up there. We have to study it for another 5 years because it threatens their business model.
With solar system on a building, I don't think that would really be an issue at all. Where I think you would hit kind of maybe butting heads is when you want to do like community solar microgrid sites, because they have to approve those. But something on your building, it's like your local permit and you get it through.
But yeah, I know where you're going.
I'm not trying to be picky, but let's just say this building produces more electricity than it needs.
Right.
You would think, oh, well, Xcel will buy that from us. But Xcel does not have a track record of being ready, willing, and able of doing that.
I thought they did buy it back.
Put solar on our
They drag their feet.
They don't.
Yeah, no.
And
Buy
Xcel
it back
would
from
want,
homes.
so if Englewood said, well, we want those solar panels to heat this building, and we'll put batteries in it, and it'll be off-grid, Xcel would fight that tooth and nail, wouldn't they?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think
I don't think they can.
I think you do it on your own, it's what
You're allowed
you
to?
want to do. Sure, it's your building.
I mean, that's what I would vote for, if Englewood did it, say, put the batteries in the basement and just make this building.
Honestly, any solar is going to help them meet their 2030 goal. So
Right.
you're really pulling it
You're
off the
helping
grid is
them.
actually helping them.
Just something to think about if that thing evolves, because I'm all for alternatives to mega grid. I like microgrids, and I always thought, for example, the police station, why doesn't Englewood have a standalone backup electric system, solar panels on the building, so if there's a hurricane or a blizzard or something, our police station has its own electricity. And
You know, Mike, I was thinking along similar lines, and I feel like our thinking on solar has changed over the past few years, because it used to be all for climate reasons. And now the utilities have to do that anyway. They have to get to 80% renewable by 2030 and 100% by 2050. And they can do it a heck of a lot cheaper than buildings and homes can. Right? And it seems like the reason for doing solar is shifting. Instead of climate reasons, shifting to resiliency.
Right.
And it would seem like the city's strategy should be to put it on critical facilities that could produce their own power in emergency situations. Where maybe people need to sleep on the floor in a worst case scenario, or something like that, or just come in during heat waves.
Yeah.
If their power goes out. So I think you'd need solar and batteries and a way to isolate from the rest of the grid. And I know there was that microgrid bill that passed a couple of years ago, so I feel like maybe they have grants or at least systems set up to be able to do that easier, and critical facilities would be easy to make that case.
So I will say with our Euro energy contractor, they're looking at generators for buildings, because that was something city council said they really wanted to see was resiliency for those main buildings. And And then I also want to say, just in case people don't know, that we have solar panels currently on the Civic Center, Malley, and the Service Center. And the Service Center is a big one because that's where cars go to fuel up. And cars get to be worked on too. And I believe the police station has a generator, but it's not anything solar. I want to say, I could be butchering that one.
It wouldn't hurt to have both, to use your solar.
Generators are
and keep the
becoming
generators.
passe because batteries and solar panels are more affordable and more effective. So instead of firing up the diesel generator in the basement, you got a Generac battery bank in your basement. And so anyways, I just wanted you to think about that.
Yeah.
I don't have any answers for you, but.
Well, and I think you're also seeing the city moving toward energy independence in terms of their parks and things like that, because those solar lights that they put in down at Bellevue, you know, Adrian did that.
Yeah.
And think his effort being to try to move off of depending on Excel for lighting in the parks, for God's sake, you know, that would be ideal. But I think the more of those kinds of things that the city moves on, the more independent we can become.
Very good.
Since this is my favorite topic on energy, let's see, for the E3 program, I know that that's just going to be a continual work in progress to tweak it and approve it. I wonder if in the future we could think about not allowing fossil equipment to qualify.
Is that our requirement or is that from the state?
Ours. I think it's our tax money that would fund the E3 program, and so Inglewood should be able to say what we want it to go towards. And there's certainly lots of good uses for it, right, around energy efficiency that wouldn't have to mean my tax money is going to help someone else buy a gas furnace or a gas water heater now that we have better alternatives. So just saying those particular uses aren't allowed, that would be something to consider. Or only zero emission systems. If your energy audit recommends that you need a new heating or water heating system.
Can I voice my potential opposition to that just
Sure.
because, you know, there could be some benefit to moving to a high efficiency furnace. So I guess the question for me would be just, are we allowing still like an 80% furnace as part of that program when they could be doing 95, 96, whatever the number is? That to me is a benefit. So just identifying what it is that we are allowing through that E3, because then we sell out or we go through the entire allotment for E3 every year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a backlog every year. So just making sure it goes to the right projects. So
More
that's where I'm
the
going, I guess.
reducing your carbon footprint.
Right.
The threshold of the reduction, not necessarily what it is.
It would be a reduction, but I think it would be a really small reduction compared to just switching over to a heat pump or something like that, now that we have those other incentives available.
I will say on what Christina's saying, there's so much state and Excel rebates too, that a full electric one, I think it's just painting the picture of like, you could actually spend less on this full electric one. Versus the gas, something I'm having our city manager intern who's starting next week do is create a home energy page. Similar, have you ever seen Denver's?
I'm sure.
Denver has a really easy home energy page. They're like, if you want this, this is the rebate. If you want this, it's like very easy to follow. I'm hoping our intern can mimic that same thing.
Yeah.
Where it'd be something like that, because it makes so much sense when you look at all the rebates. But a lot of folks who are like time strapped don't have the time to be like, I'm gonna look at every rebate I can get for this item.
I think the
Well,
only,
you got value associated to it too, you know, as in, like, is it worth my time to look for $50
Mm-hmm.
versus, I don't care,
But our intern will find that $50.
Right, that's
on the
yes,
website.
that's where you're going.
Christine, help me with this, because I'm still in the process of maybe shooting you over a heat pump in my house, but I'm looking at the cost of it. I mean, it's a fairly extensive change out for me. Is this something where we could look at what you're talking about further down the line and transitioning toward that. So that we're not, you know, because I think costs are still pretty high towards some of that stuff at this point. And I think it could, you know, take a lot of that E3 money just to kind of get to those kind of goals. I would agree with that, but I think a transition might make more sense.
Transition's fine, yeah, maybe not tomorrow, and we're getting the pieces lined up, and we're getting the workforce trained, and we're getting people more aware of it. But in the meantime, there's certainly tons of other efficiency upgrades people could do without tax dollars going to a new fossil piece of equipment that would then lock in those emissions for another 20 to 30 years. So I wasn't proposing today that we would say all fossil equipment is banned. Just if we're passing out grant money, we should direct that grant money towards things that don't spew out the emissions.
You know what, so I believe the E3 funding just got approved like a month ago from.
Did it? Is it 130,000? Because that number is in my head for some reason.
I thought Nancy, because Nancy's the program administrator, and I thought she just went for approval. I could be totally wrong. If that is the case, then this year could be kind of working at like what recommendations before it gets approved again. I will check with Nancy to be sure on that though.
Yeah. You can spend thousands on insulation in your walls, in your attic, your windows, doing, you know, testing for air leakage, and all that sort of thing. Or even just switching out your water heater. We could easily use that $130,000 without having to buy people new gas furnaces. Okay, that was a suggestion just to put into the hopper as we're thinking through it. And but the renting one is also another tricky one, and I think it could be worth considering again longer term for E3 money going to landlords that would make the changes in their houses for rent, because homeowners now have other sources where they could get funding for it, like the Inflation Reduction Act, et cetera. But renters are screwed and landlords don't want to pay for it.
And you got to spend it right with the landlord, because it's got to make economical sense to them.
Right.
That's really what it comes down to.
So if they can get some funding from the E3 program to do those upgrades that wouldn't cost them but would benefit the renters and would benefit the environment, could be good use funds.
I believe the
looking
grant-
at how something that benefits the renters directly in a way that they like see it directly, right? That's what we're talking about?
Theoretically, you're paying for electricity at your rental, so if you're getting more efficient stuff, you'd be paying less money. Maybe that's the benefit.
Yeah, but like, let's say you've got somebody that moves out in April and somebody else moves in May, like they don't know the difference.
That's true.
That renter doesn't see that benefit in that way.
That's true.
That's where you have to apply it with affordability. You got to utilize some of the incentives to be able to say, can you provide, you know, the 80% AMI kind of thing toward that as a result of us helping you with that. You know, that's a trade-off.
Yeah, you're also, I mean, you could find a roundabout, I don't know how well you can use that, like the roundabout way with that E3, but something that ends up more like back in that renter's kind of rebate. Okay, I see Miss Email looking at the clock.
No, I would.
Oh, I thought it was like, oh.
It's
no.
my ADD, I saw it ticking
No,
and I was like,
it's
whoa.
fine. I thought it was droning on. I think, anyway, I think for renters, you just have to like figure out how do I win? And that's what, you know, people in general want is like, what about me? So that's the hard part, is how do we get the renter to do something that benefits us and them.
And we'll say Boulder had a really successful program.
What?
But anytime you put Boulder in there, it's like, that will never happen anywhere else.
There's about 6 people in council that go like this.
Yeah. They did have a really cool program though of essentially, it was called Smart Regs, and multifamily buildings had to go up to, it was like a 1990 building code. It was like really old. And they actually got a lot of them to switch over, but that's more stick than carrot, which is not probably what a lot of people want.
But they
But it was
also gave them 11 years to do it, and that's, I think it's also why it's successful. Because at some point in 11 years, you're hopefully investing a little bit in your property, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they should just be thinking about this, so it had such a long ramp, but they got there.
I don't know, I'm thinking of my old landlord, he did not invest in that building whatsoever. But yeah, multifamily rental, always hard. If you will ever have any opinions, let me know. Christine, did you have anything else you wanted to add to this one?
No.
Anyone else on energy? Okay, lovely. Built infrastructure, some updates here. This one, I know folks are gonna say reduce carbon emissions is not a project. I agree. They put that wording in there to track it. So it's like constantly tracked or something. They were explaining it to me in some way. So we are working on this again. So repetitive, the energy audit, winning the public building electrification grant, the Sustainable Business Partnership Program. Huge piece of that is energy. For both Sheridan and Englewood, our biggest chunk of emissions comes from commercial. That is largely from buildings. So the Sustainable Business Partnership will help with that. We did our energy efficiency program mailer. Hopefully you all saw that in your utilities bills a few months ago. That was like wildly successful. Nancy said she got hit up a ton for the E3 program. I got a lot of emails on that, so that was really cool to see. So just doing more efforts around that. This one I'm really excited about, to assist homeowners with the removal of lead paint. So the city management fellow, different than the intern, Liz Ramsey, who's absolutely amazing. This is the one of the projects that I gave her to kind of lead for this year. And we're looking at HUD funding. And before we dove too deep, we're like, let's reach out to the county health department to see what they're doing. And they actually kind of started having some position dealing with this kind of in the works. So we're collaborating together to see if we can assist them and help with a grant program that would have a healthy homes coordinator position where lead would be part of it. So yeah, that's in the work, another grant to be flagged. Any questions with those two, actually? I always try not to go too fast and then I go too fast. Okay, perfect.
When I was thinking of, you missed all our fun discussion about the city should hire a grant writer or share a grant writer with another city or something.
I missed this?
Yeah, you
Okay.
did. But we want to put it in the discussion or keep it in the discussion, I guess.
It's been brought up by at least member Wright. I think it's come up quite a
Oh,
bit,
good,
so.
good. It seems like that person could bring in, what, 10 or 20 or more times their worth for their salary, right? Anyway,
Can I talk about why there's pushback at least?
Oh, that'd be great, yeah.
So part of the pushback is just how many hours are they going to be dedicated? If we're asking for a full-time employee, specifically to grant writing, are they really going to be utilizing 2,000 hours of their time over the course of the year to do grant writing? That's kind of like the question I have.
Definitely. I could see having a part-time position or a part-time shared with another city. And I could see limiting it to say, this is a 3-year position because we know that there's federal funding for these. And so it's not someone expecting to be on Englewood's payroll for their whole.
Shared would make sense. Shared would make sense, like with Littleton or with Sheridan.
Definitely. Or just part-time would make sense because you might have a mom that could do half-time hours and would be qualified, or.
You could use that making into a work from home position too.
Yeah.
And frankly, half the ones you write for Englewood, you could be writing for Little at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. That's
Totally,
kind of like
totally.
I'm thinking is like that one makes a little bit more sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
All
right.
But Mel, you've done a tremendous job.
Yes.
Thank you.
The reason I was.
My like 5 gray hairs have come from.
So. I thought of that again when we're in this subject because I think it would be neat to apply for a big old chunk of federal funding to do a bunch of this stuff for a part of Englewood that is maybe historically lower income, and do the lead paint removal and do the bike lanes and do the trees and do the energy audits and upgrades and say, we're gonna do it all instead of like, we'll do like a few houses this year over here. And a few trees over here.
Kind of like how we're doing the lead service program.
Yeah,
That's all being done in 3 years.
yeah, yeah. Which is phenomenal. 3 years to do all that is speedy. It's exciting.
Anything else on built environment before we move on?
I don't think so. I just can't read that far, so I'm reading it on my screen.
Well, stop me if you think of something.
Okay, will do.
So next for water protection, we have undertake a water usage analysis of the city. This is also being done from the energy audit. So that'll be done at the end of this year. Implement strategies outlined in the water conservation plan. That's in progress. Our engineer and utilities oversees that, and she's amazing and slowly chiseling away at stuff. Then I put the bonus stuff in there. We have the annual river cleanup that South Platte Renew does a phenomenal job at. Englewood City staff also does a park cleanup, which sometimes is by a body of water. So I just want to throw that out there for a little water protection. And then a huge tout to the Depot Park of Deanna and the Sustainability Commission members who always go out and volunteer. I think that's an awesome use of water protection right there. And then the turf replacement program kind of overlaps with this water protection. Anything else for question, comments for water protection? Fabulous. For air quality education, so we have sensors that we got. We're part of a regional group called Clean Colorado Local Entity Air Network. We get data from them for the ones for the Greenway, and then also the one by City Center. So that is just a constant ongoing thing. We have the proper gas stove ventilation, which I believe, Christine, was your recommendation for the sustainability plan, and we had that completed. Our graphic design person, I think, absolutely crushed it. You can actually find that right up there. Yeah, I was like, oh, this is beautiful. We have that online. We did a social media post, so that's done. Provide education on how to stay safe during bad air quality days. This is in progress, but there's always room for improvement. But one thing I want to say that was really exciting is that the state won a grant from the EPA to do a wildfire smoke readiness plan. And the best thing, in my opinion, is when the state can do all the hard work and then we just get a benefit from it. And so they're working on this right now. I reached out on behalf of Englewood and Sheridan and said, like, if we can be stakeholders, that would be wonderful, and to follow along. So this one is always getting worked on, but the state might be kind of doing a lot of the work for us, which is really nice.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Because it happens in my neighborhood, what's the city's regulations on open burning of things? Is
Not allowed.
It's not allowed because it's happening all the time.
What do you mean?
As in people getting leaves and piling leaves up and burning in their backyards and things like that. Yeah, it happens all the
I
time.
actually have not seen that. I didn't
Yeah,
know that.
no, it's definitely happening. I just didn't know it.
Would code enforcement?
That
Yeah, it'll be a
was,
code enforcement
is
issue.
it a code enforcement? We'll have to check into that.
If it's in their backyard, they'll can code enforcement.
Yeah, it's in the backyard. You know, they're just, they've
Enforcement
got a pile of leaves or pile of debris and they're
Like in
burning.
the old days.
Back in the old days.
Yeah.
No, code enforcement can't do that though. They can't enter a backyard, right? If they can't see it from the street, you can't.
That's
do
what we're gonna find out.
I think we had that
where
issue with the
that
old
line
neighbor.
Is drawn, yeah.
And
But
that's,
if there's smoke coming out of the backyard and the smoke is infiltrating through the.
If there's smoke, there's.
or it's just a
Hi,
tree.
Daniel.
Well, it's either code enforcement or the police department. Somebody has to intervene.
Yeah.
That would be interesting.
One more
I
thing.
wanna look into that
Yeah.
because it is not happening,
Yeah.
okay? I mean, I can smell it. So,
Okay.
okay. Thank you.
Could code enforcement potentially send a letter through the mail without having verified it, but said, we heard a report that there might have been burning trash near here, just to let you know that's not allowed, because they might not know it's not allowed. In other words, you're not fined.
Verifiable.
Then
It has to
never
go
go
through-
It wasn't me.
It probably has to go through Inglefix and they have to get the information. So it doesn't mean you get turned, the person who turns you in isn't, identified, but it has to be more official than that.
But could they send a letter through the mail without having gone in the backyard and saw the burnt pile of ashes?
Well, you're just providing not necessarily a warning, but you're providing just information
yeah.
that you shouldn't be doing that.
Right.
So that I don't think is,
I
that
think-
would be allowed, but it doesn't solve the issue, right?
No.
Potentially.
Unless the
Unless-
issue is
They didn't
ignorance.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
No, it's not ignorant, trust me.
I
Decades.
mean, I wouldn't have even thought to burn something, so I agree, it doesn't seem like it'd be
Okay,
ignorant.
thank you, thanks for the clarification.
Anything else for your quality education before we go to the next? Oh, actually, the last one on here, which I think is really cool. So investigate education outreach around bad indoor air quality. So that is also in progress. But this induction stove rental program, through the sustainability grant, we had someone apply for an induction stove rental program through the library. I think we're gonna be the second or third to have it. They got awarded the grant, no surprise there. But it's gonna kick off by the end of this year. And essentially Englewood residents will be able to go to the library, check out one of those like plug-in induction stoves. They'll get a pot and a pan to go with it to make sure that it's good for it. And the person who had the idea for this actually is the like induction stove expert for the city and county of Denver, but they live.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
He interviewed for one of the boards.
Oh, really? Andrew?
What's the last name?
4 lines?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
So this is his idea that is gonna get funded, so that will be kind of part of the bad indoor air quality thing, because natural gas stoves is bad for indoor air, so it's a tie right there. So very, really, really cool. I geeked out over it.
His story is interesting. He was
Yeah.
an executive chef at the Broadmoor and
Wow.
was like, went through the entire like cycle of, because now he's an expert on appliances for the city of Denver. So.
And he's gonna do some, I feel like I'm giving away the whole surprise, but he's gonna do some workshops with folks too, for residents if they wanna come and like learn some recipes with using an induction stove, and yeah, it'll be really cool.
It's a rental program?
Yeah.
So it's gonna be through, the city of Englewood's library has a library of things where you can check out like unique items. So
Like-
this will be,
Like stoves?
yeah, like an
don't they have
induction
tools and stuff
stove.
too, right?
How big is it? Is it like-
So I think this stove will probably just be about this big. You just plug it into your wall.
Yeah.
Like a
And
hot
then-
plate?
Yeah, that's a great way to describe it, like a hot plate.
We just call it the Inglewood Rental Center rather than Inglewood Library.
Hey, you can rent a state park pass.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, which I didn't know that until
Yeah,
a few
that's
weeks
cool.
ago. It's so cool.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't know.
That makes me wonder, do you know, but our code, say you're building a new house, are you required by code to put in a stove with an oven? Or could a builder just put in a hot plate or stovetop on a toaster oven or something
So does a house have to have a stove?
and an oven?
I don't think I think it's just your house, you don't even have to put a refrigerator or anything, you don't have to do anything you don't wanna do on the inside, right? Well, the wiring,
That makes sense,
but, yeah.
yeah.
I can ask Karen though, you never know. Anything else? Air quality education?
No.
Bada bing, bada boom, beautiful. Climate action, we have 2 here. One project is to implement climate change mitigation and adaptation strategies and projects, especially in areas with the highest climate change vulnerability risk. What a mouthful. And you might say, Mel, that is really broad, and there's a reason it's supposed to be broad, because we want the community to come up with ideas as time goes on. This has been something, we did an internal resiliency workshop with staff in 2023. I have it on my agenda to get to the community one in 2024. But with the grants, it's just been a little behind. But that's the goal. And then really from this community workshop, you get all the different project ideas that are created from Englewood residents about what they want to see and how they can help. So anything with that one, because I know that project is like a big amorphous one. Beautiful. And then the final one on that is to fully implement the sustainability grant program that launched in March. We so far only have that one grant from Andrew in there. You can get $1,000. There's no match. Make sure you let people know. They have until October 31st to apply. Their project does have to be completed by the end of the year. But yeah, we were really gonna push it out at the Earth Day event, and that got canceled. So we're trying other like creative stuff, but I'm gonna push it at the neighborhood nights events too.
What are your top ideas off the top of your head for what you think folks could or should apply to do with it?
Gosh, that's a great question. Had never even thought of an induction stove rental program, so I was really excited to see what other people come up with, like the stuff that I would never even think of. But we really want to make sure whatever it is, it has a community impact. So we did get other people to apply, but it was on like private property and only benefited them, so we had to tell them no. Andrews was the first like community benefit one.
Was it though, there was another one that won, didn't, that park up the street or the parking lot at Bannock and like Floyd, that was
the
one,
one
right?
through
They
the-
put in like a community area with flowers and things like that, right?
The neighborhood
That was-
resource grant.
Yeah, that was a different grant though.
That was a different one, okay.
But yeah, anything dealing with sustainability, dealing with the community is a good one. We even have an idea on there of like, if you want to set up a community clothing swap or, gosh, there were other ones, and my brain is so fried after 5. There were other good ideas on there for it.
Is this something that maybe Madeline could take to the neighborhood groups? I'm just thinking because it is a neighborhood thing, apparently, and you can't use it for personal stuff, so you can't do your yard and stuff like that. But could you maybe sort of incentivize neighborhoods to try to come up and brainstorm ideas that they could do within their neighborhoods?
So Madeline she is on the ongoing judging criteria for the grant. But I need to double check with her if she's told her neighborhood group about it. I think she did, but she might not have. So I'll double check.
I'll jump in, because I'm in that neighborhood leaders group and I feel like she's mentioned that for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, she's definitely brought it up. If people have heard it is another question.
Yeah.
But I think that they have. But you know, if you're not there one night, it's easy to miss.
We might have to come up for ideas for people to consider. In order for them to kind of try to identify how they can use it, we may have to just start leading the witness.
And we have ideas on the website. I just can't for the life of me
Yeah.
remember what we put on there. I'm like, we did
It's
list
late.
like 12 things.
Do you put past awards up too, right? Past.
This is the
grant
first year of
recipients?
doing it, so we have no past
Oh,
awards.
because last year
But-
was like 3,000, right?
It's 1,000. One thing we really want to do, because Andrew's program will be the first one and it's really awesome, we want to really push that one and advertise it, so then people are like, oh, this is what someone did with the sustainability grant. I could do it too.
I think I'm mixing up the neighborhood.
I may talk to you offline because I think I might have some ideas that come in front of me.
That would be wonderful. I'll take all.
I don't know if they will qualify, but it would benefit the neighborhood, so.
I'll
Mike,
take
maybe
all
you could
ideas.
ask the other sustainability groups if they have anything like this and if they have seen any innovative projects come through.
I know there's the Sustainable Neighborhood Networks, which Lakewood and a few other communities do, and they do community projects. So yeah, I could see what they do and see if folks want to copy them. Okay, and the last thing on this slide is the success highlights. So one of the metrics I track is employees engaged in sustainability. Our first year we had 12%, second year 16%. We're already halfway through the year, and after Thursday, we're probably gonna surpass 2023, so it just keeps going higher and higher, which is nice. And that essentially is just like a lot of lunch and learns and a lot of different ways for employees to engage. And then one really cool story from,
Go ahead, I'm sorry. Can I ask what engaged means?
Yeah, I was curious about
Yeah,
that too.
great question. So I'm really conservative when I track this because I'd rather be under than over. So essentially for any lunch and learn, or if we have someone sign up for the green team, I make note or download from teams who attended, and I write down everyone's name and they get a check if they attended an event. And say Christine's on staff, she's really passionate about sustainability and she goes to every single sustainability event, she just counts as one. So it's unique engagement of staff that goes to different lunch and learns, different sustainability related events. That's what counts.
Thank you.
One thing I wanted to share that I thought was really awesome. So last year we did an electric vehicle 101, and I actually got an email from a staff member that 101 is what made them and their partner get an EV, which I thought was really cool. And that will just like keep me floating for life. But yeah, so increased metrics. Anything climate action before we move on? Beauties. I think this is the last one, natural environment. Let's do the high levels here just because it's getting late. Implement a plan to secure funding to increase tree canopy. Evan provided these. He's doing a lot Arbor Day sales. He's working on a grant to increase tree canopy in disproportionately impacted neighborhoods and the tree protection ordinance, which we all are familiar with. The inventory and the map for turf, you all got a presentation from that from our Parks Department. That is complete, so now we're just in implementation phase. And then, yeah, I listed all these other stuff that is in the plan, but a lot of it is great stuff that the commission has done for the native environment, natural environment. Any concerns, questions here for natural environment? We've done a lot. Beautiful. And then the last one, clean and connected transportation. This was moved out of sustainability, but we have the Angle Ride program, which is the Green Commute program for employees that launched this year. And then the final additional ones, which are really exciting for the EV action plan. One goal in there is to do an electric vehicle purchase policy for the city. That has an estimated completion for Q4 of 2024. Essentially what that is if an employee wants to buy or replace a vehicle, they have to go through this kind of list of would an EV qualify? If not, would a hybrid qualify for what needs to be done?
Flow chart.
The flow chart, exactly. If they pick a fossil fuel car, they have to justify why, and it's totally fine if that's the option that works for them. If they need a tow, if they need everything, they just need to document it. The town of Erie passed this and they said it made a world of a difference in their EV procurement, so we're excited to have ours done by the end of Q4. And then, yeah, the EV chargers, which we're hoping to get in 2025.
I have not, I guess I missed this. Who came up with Ingle Ride?
That was me and ChatGPT.
You shut up, I love it. That made me smile. As soon as I saw it, I was like,
Green Commute Program acronyms.
I love that. I want a shirt.
I will gladly make shirts. I'm giving out Angle Ride swag at Bike to Work Day, so come by me and you can get a little.
When's Back to Work Day?
June 26th.
Oh, Bike to Work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll bike down here and say hi.
I know. I owe AI for the rest of my life for that. Our communications team was
No,
that's great.
AI, you've already paid AI to get to that point.
So that's a logo.
That's a good logo. Okay.
Communications made the logo. That was an AI.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Originally, they had one person in the car. And
I didn't realize they
yeah.
Yeah, we just one person.
I was like, that's not reducing it.
I like the picture of the bike going in front of the bus.
Everybody wins, yeah.
It's a little on point. A little too realistic.
Our traffic engineers change it all.
The car is racing the tree.
So that is for clean and connected. So that wraps up the mid-year review. Before I get into budget, any burning questions or concerns on top of what we've discussed?
Burning high fives.
Woo!
Yeah,
That's
very
what I'm
good.
here.
Good job.
And I also want to say, if anyone has ideas, thank you to you all too, because you guys make and shape the sustainability plan. So,
I have a quick question, sorry.
yeah.
That the plastic bag, I can Google this, but the plastic bag fee is the money collected from the stores when people have to buy the plastic bag.
Mm-hmm.
But
And paper bags.
But not paper anymore.
So we still collect 10 cents on paper bags.
You do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But so that revenue is gonna go way far down.
Right, yeah.
We're not
Which
expecting
is what
to
you
get,
want.
yeah.
I was just, because my husband lost his mind the other day, he's like, the store doesn't have to turn in the money for paper, only plastic. And I was like, I'm pretty sure it's gotta be all bags purchased.
That would be news to our tax revenue person. So.
Yeah.
So it's still paper bags, because their whole goal is they really want people to just do the reusable bags. But yeah.
Yeah,
Paper.
that's, okay, that's all, I was just curious about that. It'll go down, but it's not gonna go down completely because all the stores here use paper bags that they sell.
Yeah, but
Which is
our
great,
projections,
recyclable.
yeah, our projections going forward will probably be slim to nothing, just to be on the conservative side.
Okay.
Okay, budget stuff. I want to go through this fast because I know we're already past 8. So this is what we're proposing to City Council for 2025. I just wanted to let you all see it so there's no surprises for you all. Obviously, we're going to ask for continued funding for the At Your Door program, continued funding for the Ankle Ride program and the sustainability grant. Garden in a Box, this we're asking actually for double because we've done it for 2 years and every year it sells out day of. And the biggest complaint I get from people is not about the program, it's that they can't get the rebates fast enough. So we're like, okay, we should probably double that for folks. And then the salary for a full-time employee to add to the sustainability program. Again, this person would help with grants, would help with implementing programs, because I've kind of hit my ceiling program-wise. If we want to go a little bit more, that needs to be that second person. Green Business Program Coordinator, again, this is paid for through the plastic bag fee funds. We have enough for a second year for them, so that shouldn't really be too controversial, and they are cost shared with the city of Sheridan. And then we added a line item in there for sustainability events. In the years past, I've just like sweated my budget every time and hoped that I can make it work. So if we have a line item in there, I think that would be less stress for me. But yeah, that essentially is what is going to go in front of City Council for proposed budget. Any questions, concerns, comments there? Fabulous. So if you guys ever do, just email me. And then the final one from me, and then I'm going to pass it to the mayor, is July meetings ideas. If you all are fine with that, I was thinking Aiden could come and tell you a little bit about himself and the program. And then I believe, I could be wrong, I believe Evan will have an update for the tree ordinance. So I thought that would be a good time. And then the other recommendation I had is we sent out an updated community sustainability survey to residents. We've gotten a decent bit of feedback from it. So thinking as a group, you know, one of the things that you all can see is what people are saying, what recommendations they have, since you kind of are that in-between body of the community and the government.
I would love to see that.
Cool, cool.
What, Evan has, do we know where he's at in terms of, has it been presented to council yet?
No.
He went back to the Parks Board and I haven't gotten an update of how that went for like additional comments.
So that's
Because I
kinda
think
what
their
we-
meeting is like a week before ours, I want to say.
They're Thursday, they're the second Thursday of the month.
So the
Oh.
Thursday
So
after.
they're coming.
They're coming up,
This
yeah.
Thursday.
Yeah, I'm real curious to see what that's at.
Yeah, me too. Any other things people want to throw on the agenda or? Nada? Great. Public forum, no one. I'm gonna hand it over to the mayor too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll try to be quick, but I'm not sure if you guys have been tuning in on city council discussion regarding the GO bond for the parks. But we've been getting feedback from the community about just the plan overall. And for the most part, it's been really good feedback about just, doing more for the parks. The one issue that has come up though is the native plants. Basically, staff has put together just some diagrams of where we would potentially put native plants. And it's caused a stir because their conceptual drawings have native plants on a lot of the parkland. And it's received a lot of pushback from some members of the public, but now council's kind of like digging in on this. So my concern now is that we are gonna strip out native plants from the parks. And I just don't think that that's the way to go. Basically, why I'm bringing it up to you is that what I've kind of been stating is that we're taking more of we want to have native plants, but we want to take more of a measured approach with native planting at the very least, just so, part of the reason why is that we want to inform the community, similar to what we did with Depot Park, what is possible with native plants. And I'm concerned that now we're, that may be lost because some members of council just don't want to see, park, parts of the park being, stripped of, grass or whatever it happens to be. So I guess what I'm asking for this council or from this board is, are you guys okay with the more measured approach? The Parks Department has said that there's going to be a lot of community dialogue about what the right mixture would be, that this isn't going to be the final plan. This is just a conceptual drawing to give you an idea of where we are thinking about putting native plants. That's one aspect of it that I'm asking for this from this board, but also two, if you want to come and speak to council, we're probably not going to be voting on it until July, but obviously this coming Monday, we are having a regular meeting. So if you want to come and speak just about, the importance of native plants and just taking a measured approach, that's one thing. But also if you do have a different idea about what we should be doing with native plants, that would be good. I'll be reaching out to Jenna as well to kind of get her feedback because she assembled a group that was very passionate about it. But I just wanted to bring it to your attention because I do get the sense that we're going to be asking to not have native plants as part of the Go Bond.
Completely eliminating.
I get that sense. That's my fear. That's the worst case. I'm hoping that we come back and just say, let's take a more measured approach. That's where I want it to land, and then really just get community feedback about where native plants. That's where it should lie. It shouldn't really lie with just the 7 of us saying, no, we're not going to do this. I, for the most part, I just want the public to weigh in if this passes in November. So
is there sentiment among some council members that are anti-native plants? They just don't want them anywhere for any reason at all?
no, I think I think the concern that's being brought up is just that you're taking usable parkland and turning it into non-usable parkland.
Okay.
That's the gist of what I'm.
Okay.
Yeah,
Which makes sense.
I think it's more important to have grass than beauty, and I'm kidding. Like,
No, I
know,
get- yeah.
I heard that Englewood Nights and some of my other neighbors like trying, what was it? Like, but I see where they're coming from if they think that, you're taking 2/3 out of
Right,
this,
exactly, yeah.
and lies the misconception.
Right. So,
Well,
I
the
read some
definition of measured is key because,
well, measured to me means based off community dialogue. Like when you speak to, what I would like to see as part of the conversations after, if it were to pass, is that the community for those parks come up and have dialogue about, this is what we should be doing with this park now that it's passed. And have specific discussions like, I want it here, here, here. That's it. Like, I think that's what should happen, not us saying right now, no, we don't want any of this to happen.
right.
Yeah, that's actually, that's fair. Like, just more of like, well, you guys can vote. I mean, it's happening.
Yeah.
And
I
I
have
have to
been across-
believe, I'm sorry, Christina, I have to believe that Parks knows where the water problem areas are. So if you took a park, took Bellevue Park, and you said, where is it hardest to have green grass? And they said, that corner, we can water it all week long, and it's just not gonna. Then that's where you put the
That's one
sustainable.
consideration. It also has to do with activity in that area.
Right, exactly,
How
yeah.
is the park used?
Yeah.
Right.
And that has to drive, I guess, green areas to me.
Right.
Yeah. Because you want to have green areas so people can have activities. But if there are areas in the fringe areas which are not being used, Bellevue Park is a beautiful natural area that's off to the side that people do enjoy.
Right.
And it is not green grass. It is watered, okay? It is maintained, but at the same time, there can be measures of natural growth in areas that I think can be beneficial. You can actually put walking paths through there. You can put signage up that talks about what kinds of things are
Benches,
growing in.
like,
Benches,
just like,
and to contemplative areas or.
do the thing
That
like
would
in
be
New
good
York
for
where you can
public
put out the chess things.
Rick,
Are
I
you
was
asking me to
thinking,
come?
No, I'm just saying, Rick, that's.
He's just
Yeah.
saying noodle on that for Monday night.
I was thinking the same thing because I read like, some of the comments online that were saying they're taking away our parkland. These are gonna be roped off, you can't enter them. And I don't know if that's true or not, but it would seem like it should be a public benefit where you have walking paths and benches.
Yeah.
And that could shift the dialogue to be, we're not taking away your parkland, we're adding more uses for other users besides just people that just want to sit in the grass, but some people want to go for a stroll and see some pretty flowers. Sit on a bench and read a book.
Things they get all riled up over.
Yeah.
Is this coming from constituents? I mean, are the.
It's come up from constituents and now it's being discussed among council, yeah.
Okay.
So it did come up.
There was, the post I read say, be sure to contact your city council and
Yeah.
demand that they give us our parks back or something.
And to be fair, like if somebody's just looking at the conceptual drawing of the parks, it does look like a lot of it's gonna become native.
And if they hear that it's roped off and you're not allowed to go in there.
So, yeah, you're just looking at it from that perspective, but they were just conceptual. They're not final, so. Anyway, I just wanted to bring it to your attention and just like, it sounds like you guys are okay with the more measured approach. We talked about like certain areas that definitely should be native plants. But I'm just concerned that we're gonna.
I don't know that we've ever even been specific about where or how much.
Well, and so no, it wasn't, so no, that actually came from the neighborhood group from Dana. And we talked about I'm trying to think of that, west of Santa Fe on Dartmouth, that bike path. I know you ride your bike all the time. There's that area right by Dry Creek that is just, it's just weeds.
Yeah.
That is perfect for native plants.
Yes.
Sure, yeah,
Good
there's
idea.
no problem there.
Yeah.
They have, you can look online, I think all their drawings, the conceptual drawings, I think are up there for all the parks that they're gonna do.
Yeah, they are.
Would it help,
want to see it.
would it help or hurt if the Sustainability Commission put together a memo for city council about we support the native plant component of the GO bond and would encourage it to be a more measured approach with lots of community input or something like that? Or would it be better just coming from individual citizens?
Probably both.
Yeah, I think.
You kind of maybe get individuals, I think,
I think individuals.
and you rally up some people.
Individuals
to do it
always
too,
help.
If you,
But I like the idea of the community involvement. I think that the neighborhood should be involved in the final decisions in those areas. Because they use them.
I do, I agree with you, I think they should be involved, I think it's just a matter of communication at this point. There's clearly like some miscommunication, people think we're roping, the parks are gonna rope off. There's obviously miscommunication that's happened, and it's spreading. Gotta nail it, like you gotta nip it in the bud fast before it gets onto next door, and then people can fight
It
about
it is on there, wow.
It's like where you go to fight with your neighbor.
Okay, that's all I had. So that was my
Thank you.
item, so.
Anything else? The floor is open until we close it. If there's no further business, let's adjourn.
Rope it off.
Hey.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thanks, Deanna. Enjoy Twin Lakes.
I was wondering,
Yesterday.
are you still a little bit?
Oh, yeah, I almost didn't make it. I was
How
like,
did you go?
because
No,
I started like listening.
Wait, is what
about
still there?
it a lot.
It'd be harder coming back.
I don't know. You know, the advantage was when we flew.
Is that a battery
We
phone?
left at 11
Yeah.
o'clock in the morning.
Is that the one that you can like slap on the back and it'll,
No,
charge it?
it's like,
Oh.
Until the night.
What,
So it was
your
like a
laptop is a
20-hour
HP?
day for us.
Mhm.
So we could at
so
least
my
sleep
company
at
gave me
night.
one of these for
However, even at that, by 3 o'clock in the
sales,
afternoon.
I don't know what it was.
You gotta give yourself
Just in my hotel
a
room,
couple days.
and I was like, oh, thanks
I-
for another battery pack. Here's- It charged my laptop all the way the full flight home. From
Wow.
DC to
And you're like,
Denver.
wait,
That's
Not only
amazing.
kept it alive, but it charged it, so I was like, oh dang, so now I got a couple, and they'll charge your phone within about 5-10 minutes all the way back.
Damn, that's cool.
So you're asking for people to come?
Yeah,
it's
sorry,
usually the
if you ever want the, if it's on lake, it wasn't cheap, and it was worth it.
I,
Because
No,
it's
you
on
on
the
a 500,
guys-
congrats on the
It sounds so
engagement.
simple. Something measured, something
Um,
reasonable. What?
I feel that I have so many battery packs and I'm like, where did I get these from? Because I didn't buy them. Look.
I used to have the, like, a lot of like the mini ones, and they're stocking stuffers and they end up like that. I just gave all mine to Riddle. These are the only ones I carry.
Are we allowed to do that? Are we allowed to say?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Enjoy your dinner.
Yeah, we were talking about stressful things and he was like, yeah,